Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to this conversation. So, with SMUSA, together we have Adam Lipin, who is the founder and CEO of HearMe App. Yeah. So before we talk a bit more about the app itself, maybe Adam, maybe you can get a short introduction about yourself, about how you got into mental health and mental wellness.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. So my name is Adam Lipin. I'm the CEO and founder of HearMe App. My sort of personal journey into mental health is really the foundation is sort of my life and sort of my life as it relates to loneliness and isolation. I think that mental health is a huge topic, and I'm really happy to be a part of the conversation because I think my angle, sort of what's most important to me, is sort of this concept of peer support and how all of us can become a part. We can kind of deputize ourselves to be mental health advocates and supporters for this new normal that we're living in.
Thank you. Maybe we can talk a bit more about, the state about mental health, or the conversation about mental health, mental illness since you're from the US, then maybe you can talk a bit more about how is it like there? Is it in a desirable state right now, or can a lot more things be improved?
There's definitely been an improvement in terms of the basic destigmatization in terms of mental illness and mental health challenges. I think over the past, 15 years or so, there's been a less of a stigma. At the same time, which has been great, and have been digital sort of applications like that have allowed sort of therapy, traditional therapy, to happen on an online space to bring it a little bit more accessible and a bit more affordable. So there has been an improvement, and it's a conversation that's sort of happening on a national level, and it's something that everyone's sort of aware of. All that being said, the issues of cost and access and the issue of sort of connecting the right type of care for the right type of person is still a big challenge. And then the overarching question of what is mental illness, what is mental health, and how is that identified, and how, most importantly, how do we sort of prevent more clinical issues from arising by dealing with issues when they're on a subclinical level before it gets to the point that real clinical care needs to happen. And that's where I think there's a huge opportunity in the West. And I think we're starting to go there. I think there's starting to be the recognition that this concept that loneliness is really a problem. Cigna, which is a healthcare company in the US, did a seminal study in 2018 and 2020, which states the rate of loneliness and sort of problems relating to that have been rising consistently, and they've been rising primarily among 18 to 22-year-olds. So it used to be that elderly people were most lonely and had the problems associated with it. And the trend is that the younger you are, the more problems that you have with loneliness and anxiety, which leads to depression and all sorts of ways of thinking and acting and being in conditions that are really unhelpful. So it is still a significant problem, and there is more of a recognition, and I think people are trying to solve the problem.
Right. Okay. Do you feel like HearMe is definitely an app that is like trying to solve this problem or trying to bridge this gap? But do you feel like there could be more companies or people or celebrities or anybody that can continue doing this as well, so that we can slowly bridge the gap? Yeah.
So, here's the thing. I was at a conference at the United Nations Mental Health Assembly last year, and Dr. Tedros, who's the head of the World Health Organization, was speaking, and he was talking about the lack of healthcare, much less some lack of mental health care in most countries. So, for example, I think it was in Nigeria that has like 8 psychiatrists for 16 million people, right? And even in Singapore, there's something like 8.8 therapists for 100,000 people, and less than 5 psychiatrists for that population. So there's a huge disconnect between need and access. But one thing Dr. Tedros said, which I really believe in, and spoke to my heart, is that every one of us can listen to another person. we can focus on the person, sort of just hear them, we can listen to them, we can give them presence, we can see them, we can hear them, and we can validate them. So I believe the problem of mental health, the problem of stigmatization, has to do with sort of every one of us needs to realize that within our power right now, we can be present and available for someone else. So that's the purpose of HearMe, and I think that's a scalable solution. There can be other companies, and every one of you and anyone that's listening can find someone and say hi to them and ask them a question and give them a smile. And if we make those changes, it does have an impact.
Yeah, that's very true. And speaking of, right, like how the conversation is a lot more alive, recently. A lot of these things are shared on like social media, and people make friends with each other on Twitter or Instagram. And do you think that these definitely help to keep the conversation alive, or do you feel like there are certain dangers when it comes to like talking about mental health on social media?
So it's a challenging conversation, because the Cigna study shows that the people who are most lonely and are most likely to have depression and anxiety are the people that spend the most time on social media. So why social media gives us, I've reconnected with many friends. It's fantastic, people, so there are wonderful aspects to it, but you can also be damaged by it, partly just by the sheer amount of time we're spending on it, and partly because of the fact that people can be really nasty. So it's a hard one, right? So it's a hard one. Dopamine, you get like this false sense of sort of security when you're on social media. So there's a lot of studies that are happening, and it's a very difficult conversation to have. So technology can bring us together, and technology can rip us apart. I mean, we just have to read the news about Facebook, all the things that are happening in the world. So I think social media is really tricky, and I think we need to find healthier ways to use the internet in order to use it for its original intention. Like back in the day, AOL, at least in the States, formed these communities, right? And people got together based on shared experiences to have fun with each other or to support each other. And it's gotten away from that original conceit, and I think we need to figure out how to get back towards, go back to basics with it.
Yeah, so I think it's very inspiring to hear how things have changed from the past, at least in the West, or in the US at least. But at least if we are bringing it back, we're contextualizing it to Singapore or Asia, right? Unfortunately, I think we are still transitioning from destigmatizing the entire idea about mental health, about mental illnesses, where, it's still looked down on. It's very hard for people who are suffering with, their inner demons or whatever they are facing, right? Even if it's like simply like sadness, right? People find it very hard to talk to their loved ones about it, to reach out to their friends or their family to, talk out their problems and all these things, right? So how do you think, as people in Singapore, right, Singaporeans or Asians at least, like what are some steps do you think we can individually take to probably like destigmatize the entire notion of talking about mental health or mental illnesses, or even reaching out for help?
Yeah. Sometimes we're not even aware that we're part of the problem. It's sort of like Black Lives Matter. We need to sort of understand that systematic racism and for this particular thing, systematic discrimination against people with mental challenges exist, and we're part of the problem because of the way that we frame it, partly because of our upbringing, culture. And so the first thing is the understanding. So that's step number one. So there has to be some kind of, and I think the work that you're doing is really important for that, there has to be some kind of like educational process that every one of us has some kind of mental challenge at some point in our life. And so by just being aware of the fact that all of us have at one point of our life needed some additional support. And I think the recognition, I think most people would like to be helpful for other people, they just don't know how to do it. So I think if we start by some simple tools and some very simple ideas, one is reframing. Reframing how you think about it, and then two, what you do about it. And I know it sounds crazy, but I think if we were a bit kinder, that opens our cone of awareness a little bit. I think that's the first step. And I think what the work that you're doing is going towards that. And it's nice to see, college age students sort of like deciding that this is an important topic and really putting it out there, because that's really what has to happen. It's not going to start with people my age. It's going to start with people your age. There needs to be, just like climate change, there needs to be this movement that's happening. And one of the good things about the internet is it can happen pretty quickly. There's an inflection point where something changes.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, right? Like, it takes a while, but the small steps then lead to the big revolution or the big change, where we can start talking about it a bit more, and it's not so destigmatized or looked down on. Yeah.
And you never know when that point's going to be. Like, you never know what the thing is that's going to take it over the edge. So it's just about staying with it. And yeah. I mean, campaigns, buttons, anything, anything is good. But I think, keeping the conversation alive and letting people know. And if you can offer, the hard part is offering practical solutions, because these are really intractable problems. If someone has clinical depression, right, or that's a lot of energy and effort to get one person some help. I have a family member that has bipolar, and it's like the effort and energy. You would think, even in the U.S., all of our resources, the fact that we're a little bit ahead in terms of mental health based on this conversation, it's a lot of work. And again, what medication is going to work, what blend of therapy and medication, what blend of like, hey, let's go for a run, talk to a friend. I think the thing that gets left out of the conversation is therapy, traditional therapy, if you're lucky enough to have access to it, and medication, if you're lucky enough to have access to it, is one part of the equation. But really, it's about the spirit as much as the sort of, and it's really, that part is something I think we can all help with. Hey, let's, go for a walk, or I'm just checking in on you, or here's a piece of chocolate, or I was thinking about you the other day. Those sort of things really go a long way. Like they say, there's an expression that a 20-second hug gives you enough oxytocin, which is like the feel-good hormone, to keep you going for 72 hours. And I believe a nice conversation gives you enough positive energy and endorphins to help you make your day better for at least 24, 48 hours and potentially change your life. I still remember when my coach in high school playing lacrosse said, "You were the only one that did all those push-ups today." And I still jones on that. So all of us can be kinder, and all of us can say something nice, and that can actually have an impact.
Okay, so after hearing so much from you so far, I believe one of the ways that our viewers, or those who are watching this, could actually benefit or get help from is actually through the HearMe app itself, right? Yeah, so how about let's just dive into the HearMe app and just let us know more about the app itself.
So HearMe.app is very simple. If you want to talk, and it's all text-based, if you want to chat with someone, you download the app. Right now it's totally free. You can select by filters if you choose, body image / disordered eating, LGBTQ, university, work. You can filter based on a topic or no topic, or I just want to talk. And you press a button, and then the algorithm kicks in, and you'll be matched with someone generally in a minute, sometimes a little longer, sometimes a little less. During that time, you can write whatever you want in terms of, what you want to let your listener know. You are completely anonymous. When your listener accepts a chat, you will see their bio and a photo, and you'll have a better sense of who they are, a better sense of potentially their experience, their lived experience. And then the chat starts. And we have chats, the average length of our chat is 27 minutes, which is a pretty long time. So essentially, anytime you're feeling down or you want to express a joy, the thing is, it's we always don't have to be, crisis doesn't always need to bring us. We need to get to the habit of just sharing what we're going through, right? And having a non-judgmental ear. So HearMe's a place to have a non-judgmental human that's choosing to be there for you, that will listen to you, help you process, but they're not there to solve a problem. One of the problems, I think, with therapy is that we look at people as problems, but we're really just people that have lives, and lives are complicated, right? And so if we can address it at that point, So HearMe is designed basically Google for shared lived experiences. Download the app, ask to speak to someone and be connected. And then also you can become a listener. You just press a button that says become a listener. You get taken through a pretty nice training. You then get a mentor, and then you're part of this community of supportive, lovely people. And we have many programs, daily, weekly, monthly, to help make your skills better, to help you form a community of a new family. And that's also incredibly valuable. So HearMe, it works both ways. You can be a listener, and then one day you want to just like sort of share what you're going through. You can toggle your mood. And so I would really encourage everyone, download the app, check it out, become a listener, become a member, be both, and improve your listening skills. They'll guide you in all aspects of your life, and you'll become more human. You will feel more connected to yourself. And it's really hard to say this because it feels so woo-woo, but it's actually true. You will develop these skills which used to be considered soft skills, which are now sort of mandatory skills. You're all, you guys are going into business, and these skills are really important right now. How do you communicate with people? How do you be a leader? How are you an effective communicator? And they're becoming more and more important.
Okay, so we just mentioned about listeners. So how about let's just move on to this topic where you could tell us more about how those who are interested could actually become a listener.
The very simple answer is you download HearMe.app on iOS or Android. You then click on Become a Listener. Once you click on Become a Listener, you will be given access to our initial training. It's all online, it's all self-paced. It's designed to take about an hour or so. And it goes through the basic listening skills and our foundational principles of HearMe, right? Once you finish that, then a member of our team will evaluate it, and you will either become a listener. At that point, you'll be handed a mentor and you'll be guided through the program, or we'll say, well, you're not quite ready, or rethink these questions, or we'll just say no, right? So that's becoming a listener is as simple as that. So if you're someone, I'm talking to people at a university now, you're interested in psychology, you're interested in sort of being more available as a self-help thing for yourself, or you're really interested in sort of how do I improve my communication skills and how do I relate to people better, it's a really good thing to do. It's a really valuable skill. We have internship programs where you get a certificate. You'll learn a lot. You're with some really wonderful people. I'll just show you, it's like we're studying this book now. It's about peer counseling. It's by the president of Yale. And we study. We have webinars on intergenerational trauma and body image, and you just learn a lot, and you're part of a wonderful supportive community.
Wow, so that's actually an assurance that HearMe App has for our viewers out there, because these listeners are actually trained through a vigorous process, I believe, right?
They're definitely trained.
Yes.
And they're trained, here's the thing, they're trained to be active, reflective, supportive listeners. HearMe is not designed to solve your problems. If you have a serious mental illness, try to figure out how to get support for that. At the same time, if you have a serious mental illness, talking with people about what you're going through can help alleviate some of the symptoms, perhaps. And so I think one of the problems is, culturally, and I think this is worldwide, we really care about credentials. And credentials are important, and I think psychologists and psychiatrists are really important. But like I said earlier, having someone that wants to listen to you with some training, their desire to be present for you, is really what most people need, right? So I think in order to really get rid of the stigma of mental illness, we all have to become part of the conversation, and we rely, I think, a bit too much on professionals, where all of us have the ability to have empathy. All of us have the ability to listen. All of us have the ability to make someone else feel better and more human and more alive. And I think we separate that out, and we forget that we are human beings and we have everything in our power right now. I'm just looking at your smiles. Your smiles indicate to me that you can change someone's life right now, right? You don't need any training, right? At this point, you can make someone feel better. You can ask them questions. You can say, hey, wow, thank you for sharing that with me. right? So I think we have to be careful that if we rely too much on experts, well, nothing will ever happen because there aren't enough of them, right? There never will be. This is a global, just like climate change, it's a global pandemic of loneliness and mental conditions, and all of us need to reframe how we think about it. So while credentials are important, credentials will not solve the problem. The good hearts and intentions of people will help solve this problem.
Actually, that was a question that we were planning to ask you after that, but I guess it was actually a great summary that you have done for us over the couple of minutes before. So moving on to the next question, do you actually observe a common theme that people nowadays are actually seeking support for?
Yeah, so especially among college-age students, it's a lot of relationships. It's a lot of I just want to talk. And a lot of people just feel frustrated, especially since COVID-19. Maybe they're living with their parents. Maybe they can't work. Maybe they can't go to university. So I think it is normal and natural to feel anxiety and to be depressed from time to time and to feel stressed out. You're not a human being if you don't experience those feelings. So I think instead of trying to squash them down, you talk about them. You get it out, you vent, you yell, you scream, you say, I hate this, I can't stand it, my mother's making me crazy, or whatever the particular thing is, and you have someone that can listen to you. So I think the younger you are, the kind of like the more intense you are, and the more passionate feelings that you have, and your struggles feel really, really alive for you. People talk about everything, and the commonality is, the human condition. The human condition is a human condition. When I put my head to the pillow tonight, when any of you and anyone that's hopefully that will be, that is listening to this, you're going to want to be safe. You're going to want the people that you love. You're going to want to make sure you have enough money. You're going to care about the things you care about. And all of us, roughly, food security, safety, love. It comes down to the same basic things. So I think the intensity of college-age students and younger people is more there. There's a lot of different themes. I'd say family, relationships, school, tend to be a big one.
Yeah, so speaking of a common theme being school, right? So just to give some context, right? So now it's the super duper stressful season in SMU because most of our modules have projects, and most of them are group projects, right? So a lot of them come with deadlines, individual assignments within your project itself, presentations, and all these things, right? And we have midterms as well, finals. So all these things are packed into the last few weeks of the semester, which is when this video is going to be released as well. So just to end off this video very nicely, right? Do you have any tips that you can give SMU students or any student who might be watching this video on how they can handle their stress or any coping mechanism and tips and all these?
So there's a concept called interoception, and there's a concept called your body always tells the truth, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're feeling stressed, take a moment to notice your body. Is your heart rate up? Are you breathing too fast? Check inward first, right? That will give you insight because your body will tell you, right? Most of the time you need to breathe, right? Most of the time you just need to take an inhale and an exhale and be more conscious of it, right? It's wild because we're given this incredible, intricate, just amazing what our body can do, and yet we don't even think about it, right? So the first basic step is called interoception. Check in with yourself. What is your body telling you? Your body is incredibly intelligent. It will tell you something, right? It may be my heart, and in general, it will tell you to breathe, right? So that's sort of the foundational principle, right? And then something as simple as, are my feet on the ground? Am I hungry? Am I tired? And just sort of you just check in with yourself, right? And then to be aware, it's sort of counterintuitive, but it's okay to freak out and it's okay to be stressed because anyone in that situation is going to be stressed. It's not normal not to be stressed. I imagine you have a lot on the line. You have these deadlines. You have a lot of probably family pressure, cultural pressure, individual pressure, your teacher pressure. So it's natural. So I guess the second thing I would do is like give myself a pat on the back, maybe a little self-massage, right? Check in with yourself. Let yourself know, of course I'm going to be stressed. So back in my old life, I owned bars, right? I had bars in New York City. And a bartender would say, customers are making me crazy. They're such idiots. And I would say, you're in a bar at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday night. Who do you think your customers are going to be? So reframe your expectations. So your expectations should be that you're going to freak out, right? It's a stressful time. So I think having that understanding, number one, is really important. If you can't self-regulate at that point, right? If that's not enough, find someone to talk to. So that could be, go to HearMe Out. So you checked in with yourself. Now you may need to check in with someone else. If you have a friend, a family member, I can't take this anymore. This teacher's expecting too much. Just get it out. Let it out. There's an expression, a problem shared is a problem halved. So we're in our head too much. So get it out. So those would be sort of the basic things. If you have something to get it out with, fantastic. If not, go to HearMe.app, find someone to get it out with. And those, I guess that would be like the best advice I could think of.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Adam, for all your insights. I think everyone who is watching this is definitely going to benefit in some way or another. And if there's anything that we can take away from this conversation is that if you need help, there's always HearMe.app. Yeah, so thank you so much for the work that you have done for HearMe and for all these things, and for chatting with us tonight as well. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, and good luck with your final assignments. And I feel happier having spoken with you because I actually get a little bit of hope, right? You're the answer. As corny as that sounds, you really are. So figure out ways to maximize you, and we'll go a long way. So thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day.